Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my first impressions for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the MCU's newest series on Disney Plus. So, if you followed me on Discord and whatnot, you might know that I only more recently finished WandaVision, a lot later than other people did, than it actually ended. Um, because it didn't grab me as much. It didn't interest me. It wasn't as exciting for me. The story just didn't do it for me as much, and the entire sitcom thing got really old like in the first episode for me. The best parts of it were easily the parts that focused on Monica and Sword and Agent Woo and all of them in the I like outside of all of the WandaVision stuff. That was the best stuff of this series, and that's a little sad. It wasn't terrible, but it didn't grip me as much as other MCU stuff has in the past. So now we get into the next series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Obviously following Sam and Bucky in a post Endgame world. So comparatively, because I'm going to obviously compare at least just how I thought about it to WandaVision. Comparatively, this first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, no, the first 10 minutes of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, basically the opening scene, did more for me than the entirety of WandaVision did. And that may be an unpopular opinion for some people. But for me, WandaVision didn't feel like an MCU property. It felt like a parody of it. And I know it was parodying like sitcoms and stuff throughout the decades and all, but it felt like it was also a parody of the MCU. Like it wasn't meant to be taken as a serious part of the franchise. And I know it was supposed to be, but it didn't feel like it was. And that's what I think definitely threw me off about the series the most. Um, but this series, just from the first 10 minutes, it feels like you're watching an MCU film. Not just because of the production value or anything. Not just because of the acting, because the acting was great in WandaVision. Hell, even the production value was great. That was never my issue with WandaVision. The thing that really makes it feel like an MCU film is the writing, the dialogue, and the direction. Everything just felt like it was being handled like it was part of the MCU rather than a parody of it. Um, the stuff involving Sam and Bucky that we saw on it, we got to see Rhodey, Sam's sister and her kids. Like all of this stuff was really good and felt so natural to everything we had got prior. Um, the soundtrack, the just visuals, the story, the plot line, everything just felt like this was an MCU story. While WandaVision felt completely removed from the MCU, honestly, in my opinion. So let's talk about the actual content of the episode. And yeah, we're going to get into spoilers here. So if you have not seen the first episode, I would suggest checking it out unless you don't mind hearing about spoilers. I'm probably not going to go like super heavy into detail, but you never know. Something might slip out and I might talk about specific scenes. This isn't scripted. Keep that in mind. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. Um, so yeah, just a spoiler warning, just in case, no matter what. Good. Let's go. So the story obviously centers around Sam and Bucky. Like I said, as they're trying to kind of continue moving on post Endgame. Sam is still working missions. We see the opening scene is him doing a mission against I can never remember his name, but he was at the beginning of Winter Soldier. He's kind of like just this minor villain. Like this, I think he's like a French terrorist or something. He was speaking French in this episode, at least. Um, he's like a terrorist or something, though. Not like the worst villain we've seen in this series, and definitely not the most memorable. But yeah, he was in it. He's played by Georges St. Pierre. Um, so there's that, if that helps. But anyway, so we see Sam taking on a mission for him, and then just throughout the episode, we see Sam kind of just moving on, or, well, not moving on, rather, from the events of Endgame and everything. We see that Sam has a hard time letting go of the past, that he holds on to the past as if it's something that can never be just forgotten, can never be progressed past. And this shows in multiple ways. We see him put Cap's shield that we know Steve gave him in a museum rather than using it himself, because he, one, doesn't feel worthy, but also feels like that the shield belongs to Cap and Cap alone, and that no one should be changing that. But we also see with his interactions with his family, with his sister, that that he seems to be afraid to let go, to just move on from the past. He's desperately holding on to these things and refusing to try to let them just be in the past and carve something new out for the future. Bucky, we see, meanwhile, is dealing with PTSD from his actions as the Winter Soldier. He's having a hard time trying to make amends and, well, just live a normal life. He keeps having these horrific dreams of his past actions, and he's even seen a therapist who honestly is not the best. Like, she's way too confrontational and aggressive toward him. Like, that's not okay, especially for someone whose mind is already in a fragile state. Um, but yeah, it's like he's seen this lady, and we see that he also is just he's hanging out with some people in real life. He even goes on a date. Not that it like ends really well or even normally ends. It just kind of he just kind of leaves. Um, but we see that both Sam and Bucky are having troubles kind of just acclimating to the world now. We also see how things have been affected by the blip and everything. We see that even with banks, that getting out loans and stuff is much harder now because of the blip, even for Sam and his family. And we see how people are having to deal with, basically the fact that everyone just came back really suddenly after 5 years of just being gone. And it makes sense. It makes sense that there would be a lot of issues with that event. Like, that's just how it goes. But at the same time, it's showing us how, like, notable it is in the world now. And then we get the big ending part, and this is the big spoilery part. The museum, the curator or whoever he is that Sam gave the shield to, goes behind Sam's back and gives the shield to a new guy who takes up the mantle of Captain America. Completely against anyone's wishes or interests or whatever. You get the gist. That no one wanted this. This is not why Sam gave them the shield and everything. And the new guy is played by Wyatt Russell, who was he was in one of the episodes of Black Mirror Playtest, where, yeah, he was playing a guy. He was starring as a guy who was play testing a kind of a virtual reality game thing. Um, it, it it's been a while since I've seen that episode of Black Mirror. But I remember what happened in general. But yeah, there's a lot to it that it would be better if you just checked it out yourself if you haven't. I don't know him from much of anything else though. I think I know he's Kurt Russell's son. Um, but that's about all I know him for, being Kurt Russell's son in Black Mirror. But yeah, he's playing the new Captain America. So I'm wondering where that's gonna go. But yeah, every part of this was interesting. There's this group of terrorists called the Flag Smashers who are basically just anarchists in a way. Um, they thought that things were better during the blip and all, and want to kind of restore things to that. Um, but yeah, they're led by some guy with superpowers, but we don't get the information about it yet. And Sam is in contact with this soldier who who's a really cool guy, and we like him already, and I kind of feel like that's going to bite us in the ass at some point. And when I say us, I mean like myself and a lot of the reactors I've seen, because I checked out some reactors, checking out the first episode as well. Um, and pretty much everyone likes the guy. I cannot remember what his name was at the moment though. But yeah, it's just he's a nice guy. Um, but yeah, this episode obviously set up a lot because first episodes will tend to do that. Um, and based on what it's set up, this feels like it's going to be a great MCU showing. And honestly, I'm excited for this one. Which, yeah, like considering my thoughts in the end on WandaVision is refreshing. And I hope more of the MCU shows that we end up getting are more akin to this rather than WandaVision. Um, though I can tell you for sure I won't be watching the Loki one because I really don't like Loki at this point, and I just really don't want to see any more of him. So I'll probably just hear about what happened to that one. Or at least maybe I'll check out someone's reaction so I'm only watching like 10 minutes of the content and I'm just seeing basically highlights. Maybe I'll do that, but I won't actually watch it actively myself. Because if I'm being honest, I don't care about that one. I am excited for Miss Marvel and She Hulk, though, when those come. And the What If series as well. Um, but anyway, so yeah, I really, really loved this first episode. The second episode's already out. Both are out already on Disney Plus. They come out on Thursdays, I believe. And I'm very much excited to see what else we have in store for this series. It's just this is what I feel like we need to have for a show of the MCU. So, tell me in the comments below what your thoughts were on the first episode. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.